We'll call the Town of Rome Board meeting for Thursday, December 7th, 2023 to order. Roll call vote starting on my left, please.
Capel here.
Minter here.
Jumati here.
Cole here.
Lauerheit here.
Certify the posting of the meeting, please.
I certify that on Tuesday, December 5th, 2023, the agenda for the Town of Rome Board meeting for Thursday, December 7th, 2023 was posted at the Rome Town Hall at 9:15 a.m., posted at Quick Trip LLC at 9:25 a.m., posted at Nakusa Port Edward State Bank at 9:30 a.m., emailed to the Wisconsin Rapids Tribune at 9 a.m.
Thank you. Item 4, approve the agenda as,
I'll move we approve the agenda as written.
Second.
we have a motion by Supervisor Capel, a second by Supervisor Cole to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Pledge of Allegiance. Excuse me. Okay. Citizen comments, I believe we have one here from Mr. Mark Lebecki, 931 Sussex Court. Did you want to bring this up though during the, did you want to talk actually, did you want to bring that up actually during the item?
That'd be fine.
If that's what you were going to talk about, otherwise, if it's different from the CWPP.
I'm not sure if there's a difference or not. It would be relative.
All right, why don't you filled this out. I'll go ahead and read this, and why don't you come on up here. During the citizen comment period of the agenda, the town board welcomes comments from any town citizen, not a member of the town board, on any item not on the agenda. Please note that pursuant to state law, the board cannot engage in conversation with you, but may ask questions. The board may refer the item to staff, a standing committee, or a future board agenda for discussion and action. Each person wishing to speak will have up to 3 minutes to speak. Speakers are asked to submit a card to the clerk treasurer providing their name, address, and topic for discussion. The board will also take comment from the public on agenda items as called by the chair, but not during citizen comment. Please note that once the board begins discussion on an agenda item, no further comment will be allowed from the public on this issue, on that issue. And Mr. Lebecki wants to speak about timber and brush.
Correct. Good evening. I hope this isn't redundant with item number 10, but I was wondering where to start, and I guess it starts with Adams Avenue down to Badger. Goes from the shores of Peytonwell to 6th Avenue, the town of Rome. What the problem is, everywhere you look, we have down and dead timber. And because of the size of the town, it's a large problem. Now, what we look at now, it's ugly now, but it's accessible. But right now, we're not doing anything about it. In a couple months, it's gonna go from just being ugly to being a fire hazard. Thus, what has the town done about it? They've enacted the timber and brush ordinance, which cleans up. It sends notifications to property owners, 2 acres or less. It has enforcement, and we have all seen that it's had an effect on our community. The thing is, because it affects just 2 acres or less, it's a small area of our community. Because we have large expanses which are greater than 2 acres, which are not covered by the ordinance. Thus, there's no enforcement to clean it up or pick it up. Although we have some individuals that are stepping forward. Let's see. The timber and brush ordinance does have the October pickups, which the town has effected it through the Public Works. It's been very effective. Works with the Firewise program. The fire department, the DNR, everybody has credited the town of Rome with a success in this manner. But the current solutions because of the size of the problem and what our solution is. It's a little bit disproportionate. The problem is large, the solution is kind of small, because it's limited to a couple weeks in October. And for the pickup, although the notification and enforcement can be year-round and ongoing. When you look at the amount of the budget which has been dedicated to cleaning up what could be one of Rome's largest problems, it's a very small amount. So what I would like to ask the board to do is to consider a year-round commitment of some resources to help clear up the situation. Possibilities might be to partner with property owners, concerned groups or citizens, or associations. I am on the Camelot Association. I know they, for one,
Excuse
done.
me, you did exceed. Yes.
my time is up.
Yes, it is.
Go away.
Pardon?
I should go away.
Let him
Well,
do a
no,
wrap
go
up for
away,
just a
but
second.
he can bring it up again in the wildfire protection, because he has touched on some of that, but he has exceeded, and that's the rule that we follow for
Apologies.
everybody. No, no apology. No, you exceeded your time, but we'll allow you to speak again at the Firewise, because I think other folks are here for that as well.
Very good.
Thank you. I made some notes, so if we can get a copy of that for the next agenda, okay? Thank you. No action contemplated except possible referral to future agenda. Number 7, informational updates, meeting recaps, recent correspondence, current events, and announcements. Starting on my left.
I just have an update on the transfer site, that there has been a problem with the compactors, and our Public Works Director has been addressing the issue. Hopefully it's resolved, but I'm not sure. I was there yesterday and talking to some of the employees. It's apparently they need to operate the compactor on the, what would that be, the north side, in order to have it compacting correctly or properly. So I'm not sure that it's totally repaired, but bear with us, we're working on it.
Supervisor Minter?
No specific updates or anything, but would like to recognize that today is December 7th, Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day. It is the 82nd anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor. So for all those that are still around that were World War II veterans, thank you for your service. And for any that are connected to people that would have been veterans of that era, thank you for your family members' service.
Nice comment. Supervisor Cole?
I just want to give a thank you to anyone who participated in the Christmas in Rome event on December 2nd. Citizens participated, but also Visit Rome, Rome Makers, Snow Bandits, Sand Valley, Department of Public Works, the Fire Department. So it was really a community event. And $430 was collected in a free will donation, and that money is going to Nakusa School Families in Need. So it was a successful event. Thanks to all those people, so it's just really a great example of the community coming together.
Yeah, next week on Thursday, the 14th of December at 3 p.m., we'll have a meeting here to review the first draft of the comprehensive outdoor plan that we're revising this year. So anyone who's interested in coming and helping us do that or giving us input, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Right, moving on. Discussion and possible action on the following items. Number 8, discussion and action, approval of the November 16th, 2023 Joint Plan Commission and Town Board and regular Town Board meeting minutes.
I move to approve the Joint Commission and Town Board meeting minutes.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Supervisor Bauerheit, a second by Supervisor Minter to approve the minutes of November 16th Joint Plan Commission and Town Board and the regular Town Board meeting minutes. Discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 9, discussion and possible action, the annual Visit Rome, Wisconsin report for 2023. Invite Lisa to come on up and speak with us this evening.
the microphone? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Lisa Kubis. I'm from Visit Rome. Every year we do an annual report to the town board, so likely you didn't come to hear me speak, so it'll probably only be about 10 minutes of your time. First chart we have here, for those of you that don't know, Visit Rome, our budget is comprised of 70% of the room tax collected in Rome. 72% of that comes from Sand Valley, and the remaining come from the short-term rentals, the Lakes Inn, Eagles Nest. Room tax is expected to increase by 16% next year. The chart, for those of you can see it, most of the room tax comes in obviously in quarter 3, and then off to the lower right corner, you can see we've had 10 years of collecting room tax in Rome. There's been quite an increase. 2015, it was about $16,000. In 2024, we're expecting $775,000. So 2023, this is our projected spending breakdown. So this is what the Visit Rome budget is going to. Tourism operations is 7%. That's things like postage, insurance, office supplies. Tourism wages, that would be myself. We've hired Jillian Alekna. She was a part-time employee. She's come on full-time. Board expenses are a very minute part of our equation. They're all volunteers. Grant and community funding, I have a slide on that next, but we do a lot of grant funding as well as workforce development that I've lumped into that category. Tourism development, that 5%, is really engineering work for the Link the Lakes project. And then tourism marketing is the bulk of what, the bulk of our budget at 39%. So as I mentioned, we have quite a robust tourism grant program. So in 2023, we have a full list here. I'm not gonna go through the whole list. It actually is in the handout that I gave you as well. But anywhere from $600 to the Leicester Public Library for winter programming to $15,000 for fish habitat and stocking on Lake Arrowhead. So there's just a variety of grants.
As well as the parks too,
Yes.
25,000 for parks.
Yes, 25,000 for parks. I was going to mention that as well. Let's see if there's something else. So in terms of the marketing breakdown, that big 39% piece of the pie, just wanted to kind of break down what that marketing includes. Digital marketing and content is the highest portion of that at 69,000. We do a ton of sponsorship and event upgrades. Again, anywhere from $150 for a fishery to $20,000 for the Sand Valley Pond Hockey Tournament, and just a variety in between those two. We spend about $25,000 on print advertising. The bulk of that is our visitor's guide. Collateral materials, photography, and video, we spent about $19,000. We gave away a snow dog this year. That was about $7,000. And then there's some miscellaneous branded merchandise, trade shows, and such. Our digital marketing success continues. We've just seen a lot of growth in our email database, in Facebook followers. This was a fun, so our organic Facebook posts normally generate 2,000 to 3,000 people that it reaches. This flamingo post post. I don't know if you guys remember the flamingos on Lake Petenwell. Because it was shared and shared and shared, that reached almost 100,000 people, just that one post. Just have some fun pictures. We have Chelsea Sorbo. Willard, she's kind of on staff with us, but really keeps us fresh with photos for all of our efforts, our digital campaigns, and our visitor's guide. This was an actual picture of the Northern Lights in Rome. One thing we've started talking about that I don't think was ever really mentioned before is sailing on Lake Petenwell. Jillian, who is the other person in our office, this is her dad and uncle. They're very involved in sailing. So we've started to talk about that a little bit. Water is obviously important in Rome. Just trying to stress that, I mean, you can tell this is not summer, but water really is an asset any time of year, whether it's canoeing or as the ice freezes, ice fishing or snowshoeing, things like that. We've had some fun events in Rome this year. This is a picture of the turkey trot. It was really a great turnout. I think we had 65 people last year, and we had about 140 this year. The race ended at Up North Brewery, so 10 o'clock in the morning, it was a full house there, so it was a really great event. And then lastly, have to mention Sand Valley. This is a beautiful picture of Lido, the new course out at Sand Valley. And then just wanted to talk about what Visit Rome, what our focus is. It has always been to try to strengthen the shoulder seasons. We all know that summer is pretty busy here. And if you remember that first graph where it showed the room tax, the contributions by quarter, you know, summer is very busy, but we're trying to build up those shoulder seasons. The other thing is we're trying to expand and develop some of the attractions in Rome. Also expand and develop the events. We have a big workforce development initiative, so really trying to assist the stakeholders in Rome in cultivating a strong, stable, and sustained hospitality workforce. And then lastly, just to champion Visit Rome's vision and mission. Wanted to remind everyone, this is a list of our board members. We're having quite a turnover in quarter one of 2024, but just wanted to go through the list quick. Bob Barheit is representing the town of Rome on our board. Will Beckstrom represents the town of Rome lodging industry. Tom Gabriel, town of Rome restaurant industry. Lucky Smolarek, she is not related to any hotel or motel in Rome. A realtor or developer, Al Schmidt qualifies for that spot right now. He is going off of our board, and Lindsay Scheider is coming on to replace him. One financial or banking representative, Rob Ziegler, has served on our board for 6 years. He will be phasing out, and Mary Briniarski will be taking his spot. And then we have 5 members representing the town of Rome community at large. Jennifer Parr Murphy, Jackie Cole has been our president for 6 years. She'll be phasing out. Chelsea Willard and Scott Bordeaux from Packers, if you're familiar with him. Lastly, we just wanted to bring up, so our current agreement with the town terminates January 1st, 2026. Visit Rome is seeking a 7-year extension of that contract or agreement. So just requesting that we be put on a future agenda, for a future agenda item. Reasoning, I know it's still 2 years out, but there is some pretty concrete reasoning. We've had quite an investment in staff. We've brought Jillian on full-time. We're contracting with Lydell Caprita for a lot of our creative writing. Chelsea Willard is acting as a more of a creative director, part-time. We really need to take a look at our succession planning. We have a huge turnover on our board coming up. I myself, I mean, I'll be 57 tomorrow, so we'll need to think about. Thank you. We'll really need to think about where Visit Rome will go after that. I think the budget is, and the organization is so important that we just can't haphazardly transition this on to someone else without a lot of thought. We're in the process of exploring new offices for Visit Rome. I mean, we've simply outgrown. Jillian and I share an office at Rome Realty, so I really think it's time for us to start looking for a real home for Visit Rome. We need to develop our policy manual, and really a lot of other documentation where we'll probably incur a lot of legal expense. Nick helps us out with our policy development. And then lastly, we're considering, we've talked about a lot of large projects that would require a substantial, funding by Visit Rome. The disc golf course, the pickleball courts. We've talked about an annual contribution to the quality of our lakes in Rome. We have a large commitment to the Rome Town Center. So that's really the reasoning behind the request. It's hard to move on with these bigger items without knowing if the contract will be extended. And then lastly, just some potential added value that we could bring to the town. We could really act as more of a brand manager for all town events and PR. Jillian is great. I think she's offered her graphic design services up a lot. So we really could help the town with marketing a lot more than we do now. And then also, before Jamie left, we talked about Visit Rome really kind of taking control of the operations and the bookings of the band shell. I don't know if that's still something that would be of interest to the town, but that's surely something we could probably help with. I think that's it. Any questions, comments?
I don't know.
Anybody have any questions or comments?
I'd just say it's astounding the growth of revenue that both the town has got, because we get 30% of the room tax revenue, and of course, Visit Rome gets the other 70%, but the growth in that revenue has been fantastic, and it's growing at 16% a year right now, so very good.
Just want to thank Lisa, because I've been involved, 6 years, actually 8 years with Visit Rome from that first year, and just how it's grown and the way she's handled the development. It's no longer a little committee. It's an organization, and she runs it, and she runs it well. So we're all really lucky to have her here, and I would hope we'll do what we can to continue that and the dedication of the people that are on that board.
Thank you.
Can we have a copy of your slide deck?
Yes.
And then we'll include that with this in our meeting minutes?
Sure.
Thank
Yep.
you very much.
An electronic
Good
copy,
presentation.
obviously.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you.
Bye.
Item number 10, discussion and possible action, approval of resolution number 23 supporting adoption of the Town of Rome Community Wildfire Protection, CWPP, for 2024 through 2028.
I move that
Did you
we
want, I'm sorry,
approve the resolution to adopt the Community Wildfire Protection Plan for 2024 to 2028.
Do we need other citizen comments before we?
no, they can do it during, well, I'm gonna move the rules aside so they can comment during the item with the rest of us. Okay, so we have a motion by Supervisor Bauerheit, a second by Supervisor Minter, to approve resolution number 23 supporting adoption of the Town of Rome Community Wildfire Protection Plan, also known as CWPP, for the years 2024 through 2028. We'll now open it up for discussion, and we know there's folks here in the audience too, but did, Nick want to address the resolution, or Jason, did you have anything to say on the plan? Or did the board want to discuss this first and then we'll open it up? Okay. Supervisor Capel,
I
please.
cannot vote in favor of this tonight because the report itself is inaccurate. Page 5, fourth paragraph under community background, the discussion on the solar project, it quotes, if developed, the 2,000-acre solar farm, that is inaccurate. It's not gonna be 2,000-acre solar farm. They have an option for 2,000 acres. They are predicting to use approximately 1,000 acres for a 200 megawatt solar farm. So unless you correct it, I can't vote for it.
We can modify it tonight just to make that
I-
correction if you want.
It needs to be modified before I'll sign off on it.
Where exactly is this? Page 5?
It's on
I-
page, can you
I'd
give
be
the,
willing to modify my motion to include that.
well, we gotta come up with the wording then. So, how exactly we
Oh, I
wanna
see.
change
Here it is.
the wording on it?
Let's see.
Could just
If
change it,
develop the 1,000 acre solar
right, just change
farm.
2,000 to 1,000.
All right. That's even, did you hear what Supervisor Minter
Just
said?
leave out the number of
Why don't
acres
you
and just
take
call it
off the
solar farm.
acres if developed, the solar
Could- yeah,
farm?
It's gonna be plus or minus 1,000. We don't know the actual number.
Okay,
yet.
that's
We don't
even
have a
better.
footprint
Take
yet,
the
so
number out.
Yep.
I would agree with
Develop
that
the
as well.
solar farm.
That's fine.
All right. So you'll amend that motion to include the change to remove the amount of acreage underneath the solar farm. And you'll amend your second, Supervisor Minter?
Yes.
Okay. More discussion then?
Yes, Madam Chairman?
Yes.
I worked on this revision as well as the DNR, Amy Penn, who put a lot of time in this, along with Brad Martinson, our Public Works Director, our, also Mark Kane, our Fire Chief. I wish everyone who owned property in Rome could read this document. It's very, very informative. It points to the fact that there have been wildfires in the past. In fact, in the last 10 years, it shows out in here that 39 wildfires were in the town of Rome, totaling 14.6 acres. I don't think very many people know that. There's also information in here on how to protect your home so that your home is more prepared to reduce any ignition that might come along from a wildfire. It ensures that our fire department can get to your house. A lot of places have restricted driveways, and we review those kinds of things. So this is very interesting as far as a read, and I had also talked with Amy about perhaps maybe I might digest this down to 1 or 2 pages that we could make more available to people.
Why don't you just amend your motion to include it if it's, once it's passed? Put it on the website.
Yeah, we could.
For
put-
access.
Well, we
can-
ordinarily put the whole thing on the
Yeah.
website
Right.
anyway. But
Okay.
I think
You-
due to
you
its
wanna do
size
a
and volume, a
special-
lot of people don't take the time to read it.
If you look at the original one, which is in my old drawer, the very first one we did was about this fat.
Right.
And you've really concised it down to a point where it is easy to read, and there should be,
I thought it was an excellent report.
yeah, if you look at the original, it's still in there. So when we started this many years ago, and it gets refined every year. I mean, every time it needs to be updated, so, I think that's good too. If you wanna even concise it even more with an introduction, we can get it on the website then.
Yeah, I'll try to do that.
I did have a question on a couple of these things here, but I think those could probably, did anybody else have any questions before we would invite anybody in the audience that wanted to comment? I do wanna address though, one thing, as far as, I think the town has done an amazing job in the last few years as far as, between staff and just code enforcement, doing dead brush ordinance, especially with the community policing officer that we hired last year, or this year, that started this year, after she got through her training. And the one prior to that, they really made a push, and I know that there's been a push for enforcement over the last several months. So I think we'll continue to see more of that, and that will help with the cleanup. I know over the years, a comment was made several times when the plan was renewed about, why is it only 2 acres? And the different boards have gone back and forth, or why are we only doing, because most of the homes are in areas and Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, but the associations, they're in areas where they have the smaller lots. Some are up as far as 5 acres, but maybe that's something that does need to come back for town
The
board
only other
discussion.
areas like Camelot Association's got upwards of 550 to 600 acres of green space that they try to address every year through volunteers. They have 2 or 3 volunteer organizations or meetings that they have every year, but at that rate, they'll never get done.
Neither will Lake Arrowhead.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of common areas as well, so, let's see. There was something brought up in here about street signs, which I think is really interesting, and I spoke to this on at another time. I think it's certainly something, a survey all across town is really important, because we do, street signs and fire signs. So if you're aware that your fire sign is wearing down, that's an announcement we can make. Please, call in and get that replaced, so that they can identify your home. And the other one is street signage. I'd like us to do a survey of that as well, and that's something we could talk about in the new year. And it did say that we'll be updating some of that inventory for street signs in 2024, which is great, because we talked about it at budget time as well. So,
And a replacement of your fire sign is $50.
yes. There was one in here. Did anybody have any other? Oh, the one I had a question on, this is the only one I have a question on, page 14, it said continual fuel reduction work by Firewise sites. Currently, this includes Lake Sherwood ongoing maintenance of the 14-acre town-owned Sherwood Forest.
Right.
Who is actually doing that ongoing maintenance? Is it the
That's,
town or Sherwood?
It's volunteer, primarily driven by Dave, I guess I can't come up with his last name now. Huh?
Trudeau.
No, yeah, Trudeau.
But now this is town-owned property, because I remember the town taking over the Sherwood Forest. Is there agreement to have volunteers? Are we running into any?
No, in
Concerns
fact, we
with-
have an agreement with them that the town will pick up what they can put to the roadside in the fall, so that works out.
I guess I would pose the question to NAC. I know that we took over I'm looking at liability issues if a volunteer gets hurt. Do we have to be concerned with anything?
They sign a waiver before they
Oh,
begin.
great. But still, though, I'd like him to address it.
Yeah, so in the past, we've developed volunteer liability waivers. We have those available, so we can get those sign-offs. And then, I'm not aware of exactly what that agreement is for pickup, but it sounds like we have another agreement for actually collecting what is.
Yeah, in prior years, we had a separate agreement with them. I'm not sure right now that it's separate, but,
Well, it may be worth then examining that piece and making sure that whatever agreement we've had in the past is still continuing.
yeah, I think Brad can speak to that right now.
Okay.
There is no written agreement that I've ever seen.
Okay.
Okay.
So there's no written agreement, so maybe it's something we want to address moving forward then.
Unless it was done prior to me. I haven't seen it.
Because I don't remember exactly when the town took ownership of the Sherwood Forest, but I think it was within the last 5 years from the county, so we should probably put it on a future agenda then, that we look at that. Okay. So, now, was there anybody here in the audience that wanted to speak on this item? Where we move the rules aside, so, okay, if it's dead brush cleanup and that sort of thing, it is part of the plan, but sure, come on up.
Again, Mark Lebecki, 931 Sussex Court. Everything that's been addressed so far with the timber and brush ordinance indicates that Rome is planning and using foresight to eliminate a problem. My question has been that because of the size of and the timber and brush ordinance that the police department notifies and enforces covers the 2 acres or less, which is primarily the Lake District, the small properties like you mentioned, which I guess would probably be the majority of the tax dollars for the township. And it's for fire protection and the good of everybody in the town. And so it's the foresight the town is using that's helping correct this. But none of us has to look very far to see that as you look in either Camelot, Sherwood, or Arrowhead, there's a lot of properties that have been untouched yet. thousands of sites, thousands of acres probably. And for that reason, that's why I mentioned before, I'd like the town to consider committing some sort of resources, be it hours or dollars or equipment, maybe in a partnership with associations or property owners, to have an ongoing, year-round commitment to eliminate some of our fuel load. Again, I think the police department, the fire department, the DNR has noted that this town has got a very successful program. It's a credit to the board, to everybody involved. But the effort is so small in comparison to the problem that I think it requires more than just a 2-week effort to pick it up. If we can work something out with the associations or individuals, to work with the Public Works Department, that maybe we can schedule year-round pickups at their convenience. And I understand that the budget's been set for the coming year, but that doesn't mean that hours can't be tweaked, 2 hours a week, in every 2 weeks or whatever, to do a pickup or whatever, maybe, I don't know. But I think we need to get serious about our fire load.
Okay, well, thank you for your comments, and we'll move those forward to another agenda for more town board discussion. Is there, did you have anything, or is there someone else in the audience that would like to speak or wanted to speak on, I think, not this one? Okay,
I
all
have a
right.
question for Mr. Lebecki.
Sir,
No, we can't get into,
Question.
oh,
Yes,
wait
I
a
can
minute.
ask him a
Oh, yeah, you can ask a
I can ask
question.
a question. I
Yep,
can engage
yep,
a
that's
discussion
right,
with him.
just making
Just so
sure.
that I know as we move forward with this, sorry, that's discussion.
Yeah.
You mentioned also at the beginning of your talk, something about these larger parcels that are not covered by our brush ordinance. Is that something that you would suggest we,
that, the way I see it, is Camelot has 500 and some acres of what we call green space. Sherwood has a large acreage between the V of the lake, between the two halves of the lake. And I don't think that's Sherwood Forest, because there's a lot of wood in there. I think Sherwood Forest is just out on the highway here. And then Arrowhead has the entire area around the lake, which is kind of a green space. And every one of these areas are saturated with down and dead wood. And it isn't necessarily oak wilt or pine borer, it's storm damage, it's whatever. And last year, Rome stepped up because of the December storm and had an additional pickup. It worked well. It's just that I think the damage is getting ahead of the cleanup effort.
Okay.
As large parcels go, you take Sand Valley, it's ideal. What have they cleaned up? Thousands of acres, which would no longer be a fire hazard.
Okay.
Probably Next Gen Solar, if they're gonna clear out 1,000 or 2,000 acres, whatever it might be, that's gonna help eliminate some of the fuel load,
Right.
fire potential.
All right, well, thank you very much for answering his question.
appreciate your answer.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
We did make a revision to the dead timber and brush plan that requires anybody who has a lot that's over 2 acres in size to clear brush and trees from 100 feet from any structure. So that helps. It doesn't mitigate the other problem of it spreading someplace else, but
And one thing that I did learn about the dead brush pickup and that within Lake Arrowhead Association, they use the grant that they have every year for people to clear their yards or their properties, but their common areas is the area, like you talk about acres and acres. Lake Arrowhead doesn't do it like Sherwood and Camelot do. So because they don't have the number of volunteers that that your associations do. So it's harder to clean up those areas as well. So maybe that's a discussion moving forward with the dead brush and timber pickup in the spring or the fall, whenever we do it townwide, to think about maybe having that conversation with Lake Arrowhead to kind of reverse their approach like the other associations have. Just a thought, but. Any other comments from the community? Okay,
We need to vote on it.
I know, I just was making sure everybody was done. All right, so. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 11. Discussion and possible action. Approval of resolution number 23, approving support of Leicester Public Library of Rome's application for the American Library of Rome's application for the,
American Library Association.
I think that's what we missed, okay, for the library's Transforming Communities grant.
Move to approve the resolution of support for the Leicester Library of Rome's application to the American Library Association's Libraries Transforming Communities Grant Program.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Supervisor Minter, a second by Supervisor Bauerheit, to approve the resolution approving support of the library's application for the American Library Association Libraries Transforming Communities Grant.
Madam
Board
Chair,
discussion?
I
Yes.
see that our library director is here, so I'd like to put her on the spot if she would be willing to come forward. Just briefly describe what it is that you're applying for and why. Not in detail, just briefly, because I think the public deserves to know what you're looking at. Because it's a fun thing.
It is.
Hi, I'm Nicole, the library director. And the grant that we are applying for is a grant to help us begin a homebound delivery program for library materials for folks in the community who may not be able to make it into the library, whether it's a disability, whether they're sick, lots of different things. And that would be the start of us creating a bookmobile program that would then also serve other members of the community later on in the future.
It's a small step, but like many things, small steps lead to bigger things. So I heartily endorse this as a first step. You might remember back during the ARPA days, we had attempted, combined with the Adams Library, to get funding for a big bookmobile, and didn't go anyplace because Adams Library got shot down, so that sort of ended our participation. But this is a way for us to service our residents here that can't physically get to the library for a variety of reasons. We don't know if we'll get the grant, but you don't know if you don't apply. And it looks good on these grants. It always looks good if the boards pass a resolution in support. We do it often for the DNR grants and things like that too.
How much did you actually apply for?
We applied for both levels, so $20,000 is the highest level, and if you're not considered for that, which is they give a lesser number of those, then we put in to be considered for the $10,000 level.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Supervisor Capel.
I want to compliment Nicole. It was an excellently written grant.
It's my first one, so thank you.
Did a very
It
good
was
job.
very good job. For the first one, you did fine. But I have one comment.
Yes.
As I was reading the Friends of the Library minutes, I saw that they were talking about using the chief's vehicle for this bookmobile project. I just want to say that may or may not happen.
Oh, that's
That we have other
separate.
discussions going on as
Yes.
to how we're going to arrange vehicles. But there should be something as we maneuver that would become available for the project.
Yes, we are looking at lots of different options, so.
Great. Any other comments or conversation? Okay. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Well, good luck with that. I hope it works out, because this has been something that the library's been wanting for a long time, so, and it'd be good. Good job on that grant, seriously. All right. Item number 12. Discussion and possible item number 10 is, sorry. Oh, wait a minute, these are numbered wrong. Oh, wait a minute, 12, sorry, my fault. Discussion and possible action, request from American Legion Auxiliary Ryan Larson Post number 65 for donation from the Community Donation Fund towards the purchase of 125 wreaths for placement at all veterans' graves in the Spring Branch and New Rome cemeteries. You see the supporting documentation in here. I'll move that we approve the request we can have discussion on the amount, but I'll move that we approve the request for wreaths for the placement at all veteran graves in Spring Branch and New Rome cemeteries for amount not to exceed $500.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Chairwoman Jamadi, a second by Supervisor Cole, that we give the American Legion Auxiliary Ryan Larson Post Number 65 a donation from our CAN fund towards the purchase of 125 wreaths for placement at all veteran graves in both our cemeteries. Discussion, board members?
One question, I can't remember from the last board meeting, how much money do we have currently in that CAN fund?
About $19,000, I think, when we checked the budget.
16.
I would like to fund the entire purchase of the wreaths for our veterans at the cemetery. I believe it was $1,250.
Do we know if they've asked other organizations for money to fund this, or are we the only ones?
All I know is in the email is, I don't know that they have, but according to the email, if we exceed our goal, the extra money would go towards supplies for the cleaning of gravestones in the spring, which they had started some of that with the older veterans' graves.
'Cause I think they did ask Visit Rome for money, $200, I believe. $250, which was
Oh.
approved, so if
250.
that factors into your decision, that they may be getting money from other sources, this
Yeah.
is just the total that they need.
I moved the rules aside so we can have discussion tonight. There's a number of items. So yes, Dan, did you want to come up or did you just want to?
Just Central Wisconsin Billing Special will match up to $1,000 for this.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you very much.
So if we did 500, they do-
250, that's,
already there.
they're already there, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Okay. So we're there then with the 500, we're good?
Sounds like they'll make it.
As long as there's a balance in the CAN fund.
Oh, there is.
Yeah,
There's
there is.
there's
Cover the
between
500.
17 or
So
19.
it's 16 something.
Yeah,
I'm fine.
I could drink
She's
more.
thinking 19, it's up there.
Okay.
it's, we don't have a problem.
We
Let's
took
just,
2,000 out, so I think it's down to 17.
okay. All right. So then we'll move forward then with the motion as is.
I'm good.
All righty. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So that's $500. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, board. Okay. Number 13, discussion and possible action, approval of retainer agreement with Municipal Law and Litigation Group. This is to retain the services, where we had a closed session. Some comments have been shared by, fellow board members. They'll be duly noted. But I will, does somebody want to make a motion, or I'll move?
I'll move that we approve the retainer agreement with Municipal Law and Litigation Group.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Cole, a second by Supervisor Capel, to move forward with the approval of a retainer agreement with Municipal Law and Litigation Group. Discussion. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Number 14. Discussion and possible action, Public Works Director review of snow and ice control policies and procedures on town roads and property. Did you want to have Brad come up, or did you want to?
Brad,
Supervisor
would you
Capel
please
had
come up?
requested this be on the agenda for this evening.
Just so you know, this was at my request, and it happened before the snowstorm on Sunday, so.
It
would have
was.
been on the agenda regardless. And thank you for the information you gave us in our packet. It's exactly what I was looking for.
Yes, thank
And I
you.
guess I want to reiterate and confirm that the snow and ice policy that we've been following is the same one that's been in place more or less since you took on the job as Public Works Director,
Going back to
2017. And nothing has changed. This board has made no changes. Contrary to the social media that's been bashing us out there, this is the same policy that was here under the previous chairperson. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Again, this is the same policy, folks. Nothing's changed. Can we go over the operation from Sunday? So I'm trying to understand the decision-making process that you're following, okay? And I read the policy, and I'm trying to figure out how you go about calling the operation you did on Sunday. Can you walk me through that?
Look at the rate of snowfall, how much snowfall we're getting, when it's supposed to start, when it's gonna stop, what your future temperatures are gonna be the next couple days, what the weather's gonna do immediately after the storm, which I think is the biggest thing that comes into play, because if you get a snowstorm and your temperatures are gonna drop rapidly right afterwards, you go out and take care of it soon, because it's going to get packed on and gonna stay that way if the temperatures are gonna stay cold. If you know that there's a warm up coming, you do as much as you can, but let the Mother Nature take care as much as possible to help stay within budget restraints.
What time did the operation get called for on Sunday?
It went out 8:30.
What time did the snow stop?
Snow stop about 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Okay. And when you mounted the operation, how do you do that? You call somebody and say, let's go, or?
I'll page the, call or text the foreman and say, you know, have X amount of people go out and take care of the roads.
Okay.
Give them direction of what roads to do.
And in this case, I'm assuming that, based on what I saw, you called out 4 trucks and 4 operators
Yes,
and did main roads.
yes.
Okay. Did you personally come out and take a look at the town of Rome?
Yes, I did.
Anytime on Sunday? What time did you come out here?
I was down here in the morning, probably about 6:30 till 7:30, then again in the afternoon about 2 o'clock.
Okay, and what did you see at 2 o'clock on the side roads?
Side roads were getting wet and bearing up. Probably
What was the temperature called for that evening?
I can't remember back what it was now.
It was gonna drop below 0 rather rapidly. In fact, as soon as sundown.
I only got below 0.
I mean, below freezing.
Yeah.
So you knew we were gonna have ice and accumulation on the side streets based on the fact that we didn't do them.
Yep.
I guess the question I have is, when you have the opportunity, and we had a really nice warm Sunday for doing this, why wouldn't you have looked at clearing the side roads as well and getting the stuff all off?
Because of the cost of doing that operation, of having to call out the extra amount of people on overtime already, and knowing that the forecast for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday was keeping warming up during the week, that they would be melting off. And also knowing that surrounding communities were doing basically the same thing.
Well, I'm not worried about surrounding communities. I'm only worried about town of Rome, just so we have that straight right away. Okay, so you're out here twice. You saw that, you knew we were gonna have ice and do you ever consider school buses on Monday morning going on those icy roads? Picking up our students?
Yep.
And the result was you didn't care? Because you knew they were gonna be icy if we didn't clear them.
But there's a difference between icy and then also being good winter driving conditions.
Okay, here's what you say. Quotes, good roads are driving at 25 miles an hour, having control of the car. Okay? You are not gonna drive a bus down those roads at 25 miles an hour and remain in control. I'm quoting your policy.
But to say that not having control is
It's a subjective
it's an
thing, I
opinion, though,
understand
whether
that,
you have
but-
control or not. I mean, we can ask the police chief here, did they have any slide-ins, any accidents, any problems?
What's the difference in cost between plowing just the main streets and plowing the side streets?
Probably $4,000 to $5,000.
I don't think so. Not according to your numbers.
If you wanna go out and salt all roads.
I didn't say salt, I said plow.
But you wanna, you're.
All I said is plow.
You're implying though that you want the ice gone.
I'm using your numbers, sir. Your numbers that you put that you gave to me in the packet.
Where did you see the number of?
Well, here's what you said, that you would, if for driving the main roads only, it takes 4 people at time and a half plus 2 hours call out. Okay, time and a half at the rate they're paid is $32.40. Okay, if you multiply that out, it's a little under $800, roughly, plus or minus.
I think time and a half is more than 32.
At time and a half,
Yeah.
what's the rate?
I believe some of these guys are about $28 an hour
Well, that isn't what it says for snowplow operators on our,
for the full-time staff, yes.
oh, so it's different rate for
Different rate
full-time
full-time
staff.
staff versus part-time staff,
And what's,
correct.
okay, then I stand corrected, but what's their rate? I still don't think it's gonna come up to $4,000 or $5,000 difference.
If
Cause,
you're-
'cause when you get into the part-time staff, which is almost half the complement, they're only gonna get the $32.40 an hour, correct?
Part-time staff does not, we try not to get them overtime.
Well, if you're gonna call them out to plow snow, they're gonna have, don't they get overtime if they're over 8 hours?
No.
Okay, so then it's even cheaper. It's even less expensive.
But if you're also saying you want all ice gone,
No.
but you said.
And I'm not trying to say that you should have a bare pavement policy. I'm looking just at what happened on Sunday. And what the prediction of the snow was, or what the prediction of the temperature was that evening, and the conditions that we had on Monday morning for people going to work, for buses trying to pick up our kids. And in my estimate, the cost is maybe, maybe with my numbers, it's a little, maybe $3,000 most. Difference.
So are you saying then that you want, whenever we know the nighttime temperature is gonna fall below 32 degrees when we plow, you want all roads plowed? Which I'm fine doing, I just want clarification as what.
Well, in that case, we'll be plowing every time there's snow during the winter, because typically the nighttime temperature falls below 32 degrees almost
They
every
usually
night.
will. They usually will.
Just kind of follow up, I don't think the chief got to answer the question about whether we had any accidents, slide-offs, buses in the ditch.
The idea behind snow plowing is not to have accidents.
But I'd just like to allow him to answer that
No, I don't
question,
think
because
we
it was
did.
asked, so there was
I
nothing
know
like
there weren't.
that.
I checked, there were not.
So,
But the idea is you prevent that from happening, not allow it to happen. That's the philosophy behind plowing the snow.
were there a lot
Just
of?
in my experience, snow plowing 101, when you have the opportunity to get bare pavement like we did on Sunday, you get it because you don't know what's gonna happen the rest of the month. Yes, there was a prediction for warmer temperatures. However, I have known weather reports to be, and weather forecasters to be wrong in the past. And you can't gamble on that. You can't gamble on it.
I don't
Well, I
think
think
Brad
the-
was gambling. I also
Right.
think the statement that if you checked with, it is true, this is the town of Rome, but we have borders, and if he's checking with the municipalities on our borders to see what they were all doing,
If you wanna be compared to Big Flats and Saratoga, that's fine. I wanna be compared to the town of Rome.
Guess
I'm just
I
open
don't
to
guess
understand
discussion
that-
what
because
the big,
I wanna know what you guys think. If you were happy with what you saw on
I'm
Monday
happy with
morning,
it because the
I'll go away
forecast
and
for
be
the week
quiet.
was not just for the following day, it was for practically the whole week being in the 40s, and that's what's been borne out here in
I'm
this case.
just asking you if you were satisfied with, and your constituents were satisfied with what they saw on Monday morning, because the people I've talked to were not. People I talked to were not happy.
Well, I think you get that almost every time there's a snowfall. People are
But
not
And
in
this
this
is why
case,
it comes up
in this
every
case,
time.
that snow and that ice that was on the roadways was totally preventable for a couple dollars. Now, the question becomes then, should we be spending that money or not? That's what Brad is asking.
I think
He
we
can do
also
it.
covered this during the budgeting meeting too. You know, we talked about the cost that Public Works would incur for complete snow plowing and all, and I thought that we kind of reaffirmed
I
the,
don't recall that
prior-
discussion at all.
recall that
Tom.
discussion.
I don't recall that discussion at all.
But I think it's the one question or comment, if I might, are you,
Sure, go right ahead.
the only question I would have, Brad, please, well, two, actually, first. In the very first paragraph on the new one that was put out on, Facebook and then shared, it says here, the amount of snow certainly is a primary factor, but whether it is wet or dry snow, temperatures of both the air and the road, and whether the snow is stopped is a consideration. You may plow less or more. So I understand that that might be why you chose not to do the side roads, but it was a very heavy, wet snow. And the first one, we did get a lot of criticism on, as we do every year. You know this, we all know this. But I think there's a number of people in the community, or there's a fraction of the community that still thinks that every road is gonna be plowed when we get that kind of snowfall, and there was a standard out there at some time that 3 inches or more, all roads were plowed, and we haven't been able to, it was a verbal thing, an understanding, I don't know, but when
there
it
was a
got
s-
above a certain,
No, there was an understanding that what was happening was all roads were plowed whenever they went out plowing at one
Okay,
time,
maybe
regardless of what was on the books.
But as far as money goes and passability, if we follow what's on these pieces of paper that you've given us, there is an expectation though that some of those side roads where there are a lot of people living or kids need to be picked up for school or what have you, that sometimes those side roads do get quite sloppy when it gets over a certain.
Let me ask this, do we know what the school
I
bus
see
routes
you.
are?
We'll call on you, but board discussion first, please.
Do we
You're
know what-
raising your hand, right? Oh, I saw you raise your hand twice.
Moving out.
Oh, I thought you were raising your hand.
Do we know-
Well, you were waving your arms at me, Tom. I'm sorry. I'm
But I
like,
will raise my hand when you're done discussing.
okay, I thought I saw it shoot up.
Do we know what the school bus routes are?
No,
Could we find out?
sure.
See that?
And then at the very least, I would ask you to add those on a priority basis to any time you went out plowing, so that we know that the kids in town that are getting picked up will be safe. Is that agreeable with everybody?
How could it not be? Yeah, of course.
I mean, I was really concerned when I saw what was left. And it was more than 2 inches because of the way traffic pushed it off and up. So there were ruts 3 inches, 4 inches high in some of those roadways.
As I recall, it was a sloppy mess the next day, so there might have been ruts and things like that,
Well,
but they were,
I can tell you there were a
Melting.
bunch of snowplow operators out there at what, 7 o'clock that morning, and they were plowing ice. They weren't plowing slush,
On our road.
and there were furrows of ice all over the place, down every single side street in town. I went out, Bob. I went out 3 times on Sunday. I went out early Monday morning to see what was going on, and I went out at Monday at noon to see how things were developing, and yes, they were melting, but they still weren't free of snow and ice. And if I have a concern, it's about school bus routes. I understand that we're not gonna have bare pavement policy, and I'm not trying to say you should, because you can't guarantee that. But we have to be cognizant of what we need to do at a minimum. And I'm just saying that what we did Sunday at a minimum was not adequate. That's all I'm saying. And if we add the school bus routes, I'm fine. I'm fine. And I hated getting second guessed, Brad, in the position, so I'm not trying to second guess you. I'm trying to make sure that what we have are safe conditions for the residents and that they're getting what they're paying for.
I will say, it's very easy to sit afterwards and say something different should have been done.
I understand.
Because when you're in the heat of the moment and you're sitting there, you're making decisions of whether you should be spending money, not spending money.
That's why I added that comment. I hated getting second guessed, so I know you're hating my comments right now, and I don't blame you. But I'm looking out for the best of this town and for the kids.
I'll say, I will do whatever the board wants, just give me a direction.
Right. And that's all I'm trying to do here, is get you some direction.
I like the idea of adding the school bus routes if we could find those out, because I know where I live, a year ago, we had young children there, and when the buses come by 5 o'clock at night or early in the morning, sometimes it's not always the best conditions. So if that's something we could add, I think especially during the week, or if we know it's happening on a Sunday, I think that's a reasonable.
I'd say plowing the bus routes makes a lot of sense. I mean, I know down, where I live down, Huntington, on Kingsway, the kids all walk out to Kingsway to get on the bus. They don't, the buses don't go down those sides.
Oh, see, they went around our.
But that's
Yeah,
just my
that's
area.
where your
And maybe
area
if that's
is.
the case, then that's fine. I don't have any
But that's
problem.
only my
but
area.
I think
I'm
that's the way the
suspecting that
routes are set up.
Based
because
on
of
what
the
I've
bus
seen,
service.
I saw buses going down
We're
side
going on the
streets.
side streets, so we gotta do the bus routes.
Yeah.
You know, I think the tricky part is like, is, now we're gonna get, we're never gonna maybe get to bare pavement, but, okay, so we had a 2-inch snow, do we plow all the streets? If we say no, well, if we had a 10-inch snow, I'm assuming we would have plowed all the streets. So where is that, and I know your thing already says it, it's a hard
3-inch.
decision to make.
Well, and plus or minus 3 inches is a good margin. It's not
I
a
think
bad
that's
one
where
to
we
follow.
were years ago. It was like 3 inches, everything, they went out and did everything. That's what I recall,
Well, and
but
that's pretty much what Brad's been doing, if I'm not mistaken. After
the
3
side roads
inches
as
of-
well.
Especially in a heavy wet snow, he's been going out at 3 inches plowing everything. He hasn't been leaving it sit.
I think you said in here, heavy wet snow, he goes and plows everything.
Yeah.
well, that
Right.
was heavy and wet though on Sunday, but I have a question for you regarding the map, please.
I was curious, one thing to keep in mind though, when you say 3 inches, where are we measuring it? Are we gonna measure at the transfer site, are we gonna measure it on someone's concrete driveway? Anyone can come out if, once these close things, like it's been the last couple storms, where are you gonna measure it from? You can measure north side town, south side town, transfer site, on concrete, someone's deck, everything is gonna have a different thickness.
Well, and I think that backs us up to the plan because we've talked about many times over the years that it can snow differently on this side of town than it does on that side of town, which is why the first couple of snowfalls, every road got plowed. So it's a, do we make sure everything's clean up front so some people don't have ruts and ice all winter, I guess. That's the thing. So to make that call every time, you know, is it 3 inches here and only 2 over there? Is it 2 over there and 14 over? I don't know. You know, that's a hard call to make unless you go take a stick and check everywhere. That's what.
Understanding that's a hard call to make.
Right. Yeah, I get it.
And in
but
Brad's defense, there was a prediction of 40 and 50 degree temperatures following the storm. I'm not forgetting
Right.
about that. I'm just concerned about what I saw the next morning.
We just want people to understand there is a policy. People do the best as they can, but if there's a snowfall, I mean, the whole thing, if there's a snowfall that's wet and heavy and it's making the roads bad, maybe we just say do them all. Do all side street, especially starting with the bus routes. You know, I mean, and there's people that need to get to work, people that need to get to the doctor, people that want to go to church, those types of things. Just keep them all in mind, you know. But my question for you, please, is on this map. Your little legend here doesn't say what the highlighted areas were. And then at the very first snowfall we had, I got several complaints, as you know, because I shared them with you. And you said it was due to a driver being ill or one of the trucks was an issue. So, but is this a road, is Badger not normally plowed? Because by the second day it was really, so what's the yellow lines then?
Those are just ones, this map was created before I was here, and the purple's done. We don't create these here, we have to pay Adams County to make these for us, through they charge us. So, what we did then is I just took the marker, when I think last year, the year before, the previous administrator, we highlighted some more roads to add. So that's why some is purple and some is yellow.
So all the yellow and all the red are the ones that are done when you do
A snow
main-
plow route.
Yeah.
That's your legend up at the top. So the ones that are highlighted would be on his snowplow route because that's the very first one if it had been marked with red. Got it. Thank you very much.
And
So-
now, if you want the bus routes added, then maybe now'll be a time that we can have it updated and then have the map, and we update the map then.
Oh, okay.
If you want
Yeah.
to spend the money to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
How much is Sam I don't think Sam will charge.
Good idea, Ben.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think it's a
Well,
great
he-
idea. I don't think Sam will charge that much for that.
It's just a fee, just so.
Right. I think he's a nominal fee. I think his smallest fee is like $50.
So
Yes, chief.
if we're gonna do the bus routes, how are we gonna keep that current? I mean, that could change numerous times through the
We,
year.
in September, when you're starting to plan the snow season, you contact the school district and find out what the bus routes are.
What the new bus route is for the year.
Not rocket science. You just call the school
Chief
district.
is concerned they change it during the year.
Generally speaking,
Well,
the
if
bus
they
companies,
change-
they won't change routes during the year. generally
If somebody comes into the neighborhood, they would,
speaking.
but,
Well, yeah.
so why don't we put the onus on the school district that if the route changes to contact us and let us know? I mean, they're the first hand of information, so I don't see making them not making them responsible.
There's no more board discussion. I think there were a couple of people that had their hands. Tom's flew up
One
right
more
away.
comment.
So, oh, I'm
Before you
sorry.
go there,
Yes.
Just, Brad, every meeting since July, we've said, when you put out information or when you want to find information regarding the town, go to www.romewisconsin.com. Have we not? Yet you posted the guidelines on Facebook. Would you please put those guidelines on our website?
Just to clarify, in the past, I didn't post the stuff on there, that was done by the administrator, so that's why might have been missed this time, because.
You can't, you don't have access to the
I do
website?
now.
Okay.
But in the past, it was always done by
But-
that
but-
person, so.
Just so you fold that in your thinking, that we're telling the people, go to the town website for information regarding the town. Go to the to the Visit Rome website for the social occasions, so.
I believe they put that out due to the forecast of snow coming on Facebook's more fluid than the website. We can't change the website on the weekends. That post was posted on Saturday right before the snowfall. The PD uses our
Yeah.
Facebook page the same way. If you have something fluid that's live that you wanna get out right before it happens, that website, it won't change till Monday morning. I requested some changes last Friday and they didn't get done till Monday morning, so
I'll make a note that in, October, we start talking about snow, and it won't happen again.
Oh, thank
Oh,
you
yes,
for.
it will.
Well, we'll get tons more
snow?
complaints next year,
snow
and then
will
we gotta
happen,
start
I
all
guarantee
over,
it.
square one, right? So there were people, Tom, you wanna go first, please, give your name and address?
Tom Gabriel, 1032 East Queensway. Brad, I'd like to compliment you. We heard from the chief, we had no cars off the roads, no school buses stuck. Exactly what's supposed to happen. Perfect plow job. He's working on a tight budget. It's December. He doesn't know what January, February,
said a tight
March,
budget?
or possibly into April happens. Roads were safe, because nobody ended up in the ditch. No school buses got stuck. If people want roads like they had in the city, it's gonna cost a lot more in taxes again. Sundays, even when you live in the city versus in the country, Sundays is always the worst day to plow snow because it costs more money to get guys in. Snow during the weekdays, they're already in. It's a lot cheaper to do. I was a snowplow contractor for 34 years before I moved up here. I operated on budgets. I had to make the same calls he has to make. How much, when, where, how. Trust the guy that's doing it. He's doing a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I just say, or comment, not to throw one of our neighbors under the bus, so to speak, but driving around Rapids, going from school to school, that I have to do periodically during the week, our streets in Rome looked a whole lot better than almost every side street in the city of Wisconsin Rapids.
Anybody else? And as far as budgets go, if we need to spend the money to clear the roads, we'll spend the money. We have it. Who said we had a tight budget on snow plowing? I don't remember that during our budget conversation.
Mr. Gabriel.
Huh?
Mr. Gabriel just said.
Oh,
Yeah,
but no, Tom, we've got other,
all I was saying was he has a budget to work with.
no,
that.
we understand that.
That's what I said. Spending more money, I think he did a great job. That's all I'm saying as a resident of Rome.
Did anybody else have comments? Say, yes, sir, in the blue shirt, if you want to come up, please. If you could give your name and address, please.
Chuck Hansen, 337 Robindale Court. Robindale is a modestly long cul-de-sac. Okay, we have 3 full-time residents on Robindale. It's considered a side street, so we don't get plowed. And last year, we had a couple of times where we had back-to-back snowfalls where we didn't get plowed. So by the time we did get plowed, we had well over 6 inches on the street. Okay, I find that unacceptable. There were times where North Archers got plowed and we were essentially plowed in. The snow that the plow was pushing off of North Archers blocked the end of Robindale. So I have a car, I have 5 inches of ground clearance. I wasn't gonna risk going through that hard plowed snow to get out because it crusted and it was probably 10 to 12 inches high. And these flimsy plastic front ends on cars, there was no way I was gonna try to go through that. I think that's unacceptable.
Yeah.
My preference would be to have Robindale plowed when North Archers gets plowed. I feel like I pay the same taxes everybody else pays. Why shouldn't my street get plowed? We have another older couple, full-time, and we have a younger person that works, and he does drive out of there every day to go to work. And, I feel we should, and he slid off twice last year. We've got a slight downhill coming out and a curve, and he slid off twice last year because of not being plowed, the snow freezing, turning more to like ice, and not melting. It wasn't a serious slide off. Just as an aside, there was one slide off on North Arches on Sunday. I think he may have slid off before the plow came through. I'm not sure about that, but he left it there until today. It finally got pulled out today. So
there was one.
I think it was a two-wheel drive pickup. It was a pickup. I'm speculating that it was two-wheel drive. You know, as far as the memo goes, the comment about it being more of an art than a science as far as the call, well, my selfish self says it doesn't have to be. If you're doing my street and you're doing all the other streets, it's an easy call. You just plow. So, that's my feeling.
Okay.
Any questions?
Did anybody have any? No. Appreciate the comments, thank you. So I think a couple of key points where nobody's really bashing Brad, but there's an expectation in the community that our roads are a certain way after certain kinds of snowfalls and what's ahead of them. And every person has a different level of expectation, and are we gonna please everybody? No, we never will with snow plowing. But the other key point is that this policy did not change this year. It's the same as last year's, and he made the call with the information that he had. And moving forward, I mean, if we're gonna do bus routes or if there's other things we wanna consider and bring it back another time for more discussion and set it at a certain limit, but like you said, one side can be different than the other, but maybe everybody pays the same taxes. I've heard that one over and over for a decade now. I pay the same taxes, I want a clean road too. Just because I'm on a set, and it came out again with the call I got this weekend, it's like, well, I pay the same amount of taxes, I want my road clean too. So that's a decision we have to make. And $3,000-4,000, or you said $5,000, that's a discussion we wanna have further. Let's see how the winter goes, but is there anybody?
Recalculate it.
Pardon?
I'll recalculate it.
Is anybody else in the audience here for this subject matter that wanted to speak? Okay. Again, we thank everybody for the work that they did, and we just need to,
Brad has a hard job. It's
Yeah,
not an
it's
easy
not.
call, and
Nobody
he's
does.
right. It's in the heat of the battle, and it's always easy to Monday morning quarterback. So I do appreciate the job that you do, Brad. I'm not trying to castigate you. I'm trying to understand how our operation in town of Rome works so that I understand what I can do to explain to people.
One thing you helped to explain too is the rising cost of salt. If the expectation is for bare pavement where it has to be salted, $108 a ton is,
I saw that. Do we buy off the state contract?
yes, we do.
And do we have all the salt we're gonna get this year already in the barn? Or do you have a reserve?
We have reserve for after the first of the year,
Okay.
seasonal,
How
is what
much,
we call it.
how much is the reserve pile?
200 tons.
Okay.
But right now our shed
And what's
is
in there
probably
right now, roughly?
about 3/4 full of the shed.
Okay. And what does it hold?
600 tons right now we have.
Okay. Thank you.
Then we do use salt sand mix too then to help.
Yeah, no, you're not gonna salt every road every time and try to get to bare pavement. It's not gonna happen. It's not realistic.
I think Supervisor Minter had one more
Well,
comment.
I had a question, just mostly for my own edification and education. So when you go down the main road, the plow then drops a pile of snow across each of the little side roads. Is it is there any way to swing the wings onto the little side roads to like get rid of the hump that was left across the road? Or is that you might as well just go down the whole road and be done with it?
You might as well go on the whole road. If the wing is down, you have to go on the whole road. The only way you could do is if you wanna turn your plow straight and try to push through and then turn it back.
By the time you do that, you might as well plow the whole road, because if you could just keep on driving. Okay, I had a feeling that was gonna be the answer, but I was hopeful.
All right. So thank you, everyone, for the discussion. Did we have any action that we wanted to take, or a motion, or with the
Just add
school?
the bus routes onto the priority,
Make that a motion?
onto the main roads. I'll make it a motion.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion by Supervisor Capel, a second by Supervisor Minter, that we add the roads for the school buses to the current existing policy. Did I get that correctly? For you?
It's that we add the school bus routes to the main plowing route,
Main plowing route.
so that they're done every time we plow.
All right. And that's
And
second.
we'll get that information from the school districts.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Brad. All right. Number 15, discussion and possible action, approval of resolution number 23, approving 2024 wages and per diems for town staff, volunteer firefighters, and committees.
I'll move approval of the 2024 wages and per diem for town staff, volunteer firefighters, and committees, as written.
I'll second. We have a motion by Supervisor Capel, a second by Chairwoman Jumati for approval of the 2024 wages and per diems for town staff, volunteer firefighters, and committees. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 16, discussion and possible action, request additional deer damage tags from the Wisconsin DNR. I believe we're gonna have some information on this first before we,
So actually, the way it's worded on the agenda probably wasn't the best way to word it. The DNR biologist reached out to us and said they'd be willing to give us, 30 more of these tags. That's, Aaron Grossman's our biologist here that's in charge of that program to keep the abatement program going in the Lake District. So, I mean, if we're gonna see results from this, it's gotta be a long-term thing. She told me that on the phone when I spoke with her. They have found some chronic wasting disease, one confirmed case in this area of town, and that doesn't include the rifle deer season. This was a sickly deer that was tested and came back positive. So it'd be my recommendation we continue with the Metro Management group and not put a specific number on there, go with what the DNR biologist recommends on an ongoing basis. Obviously, those numbers are gonna go down. They gave us a significant number because of the problem with the population as the years go. The number goes down generally. I think Nick can speak to it. It's done in other communities. It's been done for years. You follow the biologist, and if there's a problem, we bring it back and say we wanna opt out.
Yeah, I would just, maybe just add to that, you would follow the biologist's recommendation, right? So if there was a future discontinuance of the program or a modification in any way needed, that would come before you to take action on it.
so the way this was worded, it came, so people understand, this request actually came from the DNR to us and said, let us know if you're interested in more tags. You currently have a total of 40. I can issue you 30 more. Just looking to check in with you on that. And so far, I believe they've taken up to 32.
I believe it was 31 before
31?
the rifle season, and they didn't hunt, or they don't.
They don't
do
hunt
abatement during the hunting season for rifles, so.
And there's a reason for that, so I'll move that we continue to participate in the program through the DNR with the Multi-Metro Deer Management Group, with the chief monitoring for future adjustments per the feedback by the DNR biologist.
I'll second it.
And that's for the 30. I should have added that. Bob, do you agree with the 30?
Yes.
All right.
I think you just should leave the number.
Oh,
off,
leave it
or
on-
if you're gonna
Yeah.
I'm
participate
sorry.
in the program, the
Okay. Okay, that sounds,
biologist will determine where the areas that have population issues.
Okay.
The map will be adjusted by her, and that's.
we'll leave it up to her to gauge that and help you through that. Okay, perfect. So more discussion. Motion by by Chairwoman Jumati, second by Supervisor Bauerheit to continue with participation in the DNR deer program through multi-metro deer management with the chief monitoring with the advice of the DNR biologist. Discussion.
I think it is worth saying that this just isn't the entire town, that they're
Yes.
going around everywhere. You need to request this, correct?
Correct.
If you have overpopulation or problem in your area, you need to request that they come and do this. They're not just out randomly killing deer everywhere, because it's been out there saying there is no overpopulation problem in certain parts of the town. Well, then those people won't be applying and they won't be there taking those deer. It's only where there's this problem where they're congregating.
To date, the deer taken have been on Camelot and Sherwood. No deer have been taken. You know, we opened some area west of Highway 13. The manager of Metro Deer Management said all of the deer that were taken were on the east side of Highway 13 in the problem area. They've done no hunting on Arrowhead. Now, that's not to say private citizens didn't use their own tags and harvest deer in the subdivisions over there, but the group that's doing the nuisance abatement has all been east of 13.
So we can basically say, and thank you for the clarification, Supervisor Cole, because that's one thing we did express on the Facebook page, is that you have to call to get this service. They are trained or went through special training, and then they will come out, get the agreement with your neighbor that they can take these deer. And what we're finding out is that they're being successful in taking the deer in the overpopulated areas. So was there any more board discussion or comments? 'Cause I
How
had-
is it working for the processing? Because you're on a list if you want to receive a processed deer, because they've taken 31 deer, but who is taking those? Because there's been people saying they're on the list, but they're not being
One
called.
of the problems is they're calling people and they need to drop those deer off when they call. If you do not answer your phone,
Okay.
they go on to the next person. They cannot process all the deer, like, some of the hunters are from like Adams area. If they're not going up to Rapids, they're not gonna, on their own gas, their own time, take the deer up to a processing facility. So a little of that information was incorrect that we got,
Okay.
but this was our first year. So, yeah, if you're on the list, you gotta be answering your phone. If you don't answer your phone or you're out of town, they go on to the next person. So,
And if you have a question about that whole process, you can call,
they can call me and I can explain that part
listen,
of the
she'll explain it
process,
to you, so it doesn't, someone's not confused about that, how it works.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification on that. You want them fresh. You can't have them a couple hours or days old, but, all right, so we have people in the audience that wanted to speak on the deer take. Yes, sir, please come up and state your name and address for the record.
John Erdman, 188 West Walden Way. My concern about this is that this deer hunting area, and I don't know if, I think there's been one guy at least hunting up in that area, and my property borders that. Now, I can tell you for an absolute fact, my son and I hunted all opening weekend and never saw a deer. That is the first time this has happened to me since I've been here for 7 years. I find that unbelievable, and I'm kind of questioning the way it was written up because it says nuisance deer. Well, if the DNR is calling and just saying, we'll give you 30 more tags, they don't know if there's nuisance deer out there that are eating these plants and stuff. And my wife and I have flowers, everything, all summer long. And my wife takes rabbit and deer repellent, sprays the flowers, and we have absolutely no problem. And I have deer in my yard because I got a fairly decent green lawn that come in there and eat the grass. So I just don't understand why we gotta all of a sudden just be killing off all these deer when there's no proof that we need to kill any more nuisance deer. I don't see the proof here. That's all I hear is DNR said kill them off. DNR says we got 54 deer per square mile. The archery and bow season in Central Forest area this year killed 3.5 deer per square mile. That doesn't sound like an awful lot of deer. That doesn't sound like there's 54 deer running around per square mile to me in this township.
Hunters.
And why we are lower on hunters. I'll agree with that. But a 1% lower, actually, the number is 0.8% lower hunters this year. And the deer kill was down 14.5% in the Central Forest area. That doesn't correlate. That doesn't
If
correlate
you don't
at
think
all.
there's a deer problem, you should drive down Apache and around sunset. I almost hit a deer tonight on the way over to this meeting, and I tell you, I counted 11 deer on the way here from my house.
Well, I understand that, but the 40 tags were supposed to take care of that problem down in that area. And I talked to 3 other hunters in the town of Rome that had the same experience as I did opening weekend.
Sir, to clarify things, unless you're hunting on half-acre residential lots, that's where these deer are being harvested, and I can speak with Supervisor Borheit. Wednesday morning, I counted 17 deer from 10th Avenue to 8th Avenue, and in talking with the person that's running this Metro Deer Management, these deer are being harvested in residential areas. The Sherwood Forest, they've taken several out of.
But it was supposed to be nuisance deer.
You saw a boardroom full
If
of
they're
people
eating
the
your
last
plants
time
and
we
your
discussed it.
vegetation
Well,
and
that
you're
was
hitting
because
them
they
with
were
your
called
car,
to
they're
vote them in.
nuisance.
That's all that was. So, I mean, the first time
Sorry,
I
what
was
it-
here to talk about this, there was nobody. It was me and one other guy talking about it. The next time I come here, the whole room is filled with people that want to talk about it, and the bow hunting group. That doesn't sound to me like they didn't know what wasn't going on the first time around.
Supervisor Bauer, thank you for your comments, sir. I didn't hear what you said because you started talking at the same time. What did you say, please, so I could?
I said I almost hit a deer on the way
Oh,
over
that
here
part I
tonight.
did hear, but
And
what
I
did-
counted 11 deer between my house and this location.
Okay, but you said,
Just-
okay, and
Just
then
a comment.
Yes.
Respectfully, Mr. Erdman, but I believe the low deer count this year is mostly due to the fact there was no tracking snow. And so hunters weren't able to go after deer. That has a big impact on deer kill if you go back over statistics.
That doesn't change the fact I didn't see any.
Well, no, doesn't. But I know a lot of other people that didn't see any. That doesn't mean they're not out there.
I've been hunting for 60 years, and I've hunted a lot of years with no snow. And that has never been my excuse that there wasn't any snow that I couldn't get a deer.
I'm not saying it's an excuse. I'm just saying that if you look at statistics, you'll find that in the winters, during the hunting season, when there's no snow, there's a lower deer kill on average.
I believe there's also some township, but there's another gentleman here, please. I'm sorry, sir, I forgot your name when you spoke the first time. Chuck Hanson. Now I remember, thank you.
Okay, I'm very supportive of additional harvesting of the deer. I live on Robindale Court, which is on Lake Sherwood, and we have a real deer nuisance problem. On the way over tonight, I came out the front door, there's a deer in my yard. I came across the Kingsway Dam, 6 deer on the dam. This summer, I gave up with the deer spray and the Irish Spring and put up a fence. They were eating everything that I plant. I try to make deer resistant, use deer resistant plants. They ate my bee balm, which they started that last year, but I've had bee balm for years and years, and they never used to touch it. Now they eat it right down to the ground. And I had a little spiderwort plant that's been next to the garage for 40-some years. It's gone. And they're not supposed to eat spiderwort. They ate everything. There's just way too many of them, and we need to get rid of them. And I was probably one of the first ones that signed on with the group to give permission to use my property. They never did contact me about it.
All right, well,
So
we'll make note of that so that they can,
that's my 2 cents worth.
Thank you.
thank you. Anybody else want to make a comment?
I just think we have a vision up there, and you have deer on your signs coming into town, deer on the building that was just all painted.
If you want to come up here and make it,
He's had his say. hasn't he?
yeah, he has, yeah. One last comment, sir, please.
You have all
We
this stuff
understand.
promoting people to come here. If you don't want deer here, why do you come to the country? Stay in the city. Jeez.
Could we also maybe incorporate with DNR and with this program to get information out to people about feeding deer? Because I think we've done a little bit of that in the past. I don't know if DNR will assist with that. So I think some of the problem that's happening in these more, what we'll call neighborhoods, and I don't know in your case, Mr. Hanson, if this is happening where you live, is that people are feeding the deer. And it's attracting them and it's bringing them where they shouldn't be, and it's having them rely on coming to these areas. So if maybe that could help if that stopped, cause they were feeding where I live, and we'd have 19, 20 of them be in the yard, and DNR visited, talked to the person who was doing this, and she stopped. And now we have what I would call a normal number of deer there, they're not congregating. So I think education for people would help. We all like to look at them, sometimes they're pretty, they're fun to watch, but we don't like it, like you say, when they eat everything you plant, or when I've even heard of them chasing people. I mean, that's kind of absurd, but I guess it's happened. Yeah, someone was chased by a deer, I mean, or whatever, or they're getting more domesticated almost with all these people feeding them.
Suppose if they're hungry
So
and they're mad.
you really have to stop feeding them, and it's a shame that this has to be done, because I think primarily because of people attracting them to their areas and their yards. So,
And as a final comment, I'll just say with the Multi-Metro Deer Management Group and the DNR, we're working closely to monitor this process. So it's not, we're just willy-nilly taking out deer in our community. So again, it's a program that people ask to be involved in, and we're having resources help us with this deer management. And we said it would be ongoing in order to get that at a reasonable number in those smaller communities in Camelot or neighborhoods in Camelot and Sherwood. So, any more discussion, any more public input? I'll allow you just to come up briefly. Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 17, discussion and possible action, approval of resolution number 23, approving revisions to the Town of Rome fee schedule.
I move that we approve the Town of Rome fee schedule as presented.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Supervisor Bauerheit, a second by Supervisor Capel to approve the revisions to the Town of Rome fee schedule. Discussion?
Just one question. Brad, we didn't raise the price for the contractors this year, correct? We just kept it the same. Are we recapturing all our costs for that? Can you assure me that we're recapturing all our costs? Because it's unlimited amount that they can bring in once they get a permit, correct?
For the brush?
Yeah. And I see, seems to see the same trucks all the time going in there, so. I just want to be assured that it's not costing us anything the way we're doing this. Okay. Actually, we should make a little profit on it, since we're saving their gas and stuff by coming to a central location.
And we are.
Our expenses are in
Sorry,
shipping
Brad.
and then pushing up of the brush.
Okay, well, and shipping,
Shipping, yes.
right?
Are there any contractors coming into our transfer site with items other than brush, timber?
There's only one contractor that has a solid waste permit,
Okay,
bring garbage in.
okay. Thank you. My only question would be on the erosion control fees, and maybe Dan could answer this if he's still here. Yes. This is part of the shoreland ordinance, or these are going to be new in addition to? Is the county raising these fees, or are we raising these?
No, it's a fee that I've been charging this whole time, that the town hasn't been charging, so they're just trying to match up.
So you're getting the information out there so people are aware they're being charged this. It was just never shown on our list before.
Right.
Thank you.
Housekeeping.
And then the last question I have is, where it set up their fees for manufactured home dwellings with Wisconsin insignia fixed, I'm assuming that's little metal plates, should be, or shall be 2/3 of the normal fee. We're just gonna do away with that completely.
Right,
All homes will be the same no matter what.
right, because it's taking the same amount of inspection regardless.
Okay. All right. Everybody hear that okay, or? All right. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, item number 18, discussion and possible action, approval of resolution number 23, resolution approving the appointment of election officials for the term of January 1, 2024 through December 31, 2026. Now it says on here 2026, but on the form, the last one we got, it says 25.
I believe it goes to December 31st, 2025. Goes for 2 years.
Oh, okay, here, so it was an error on the, okay, all right. So we'll make sure that we get that correct when we make, okay.
I move to approve the appointment of the election officials for the term of January 1, 2024 through December 31, 2025 as presented at the board meeting tonight.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Supervisor Minter, a second by Supervisor Cole to approve the resolution for the appointment of election officials for the term of January 1, 2024 through December 31, 2025. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 19, discussion and possible action, create a resolution in support of language changes to Senate Bill 680 and Assembly Bill 656, regulating wake sport activities to be forwarded to the Wisconsin State Legislature. We'll have a little bit of discussion, and I'll bring up what I've learned first. Members of the board have been working on going towards the idea of a local ordinance regulating these activities. However, in light of the two bills that came up that were included in our packets, I've been staying in touch with Senator Teston's office, as he was the author on the Senate bill and co-sponsored the Assembly bill. Supervisor Cole has been in touch with Assemblyman Krug. And the recent information that I received, as well as I'll go over that first. There were to be, at first they didn't think this would be fast moving because there wasn't a whole lot of groundswell support. But I got a call 15 minutes later from the senator's office saying there's a hearing on December 19th. The Assembly hearing is for December 12th. But as of today, I got an update from the senator's office saying that the committee clerk stated today that the authors were working with the opposing groups on this due to the language that's in the bill. Because for townships such as ours, the size that what they're proposing, it would be a practical and enforcement type issue for us or any other towns such as us. The other thing we need to keep in mind is that if we did an ordinance now, anything that would get passed by the legislature would preempt what we would put in. So it would put a lot of work, we'd put something out there and it would just create a lot of havoc. People would be more upset. So it's been recommended to us even by the senator's office that we would possibly wait and see how these bills transpire. Right now, if they had productive hearings today, which I didn't know later in the afternoon, I didn't get any word, that they would move forward with those hearing dates of the 12th and the 19th. If they were non-productive, those dates would get bumped. But again, they still recommended to us that March of the year, we would know more if those bills are going to move forward or not. The other information that I did get on behalf of the town board was contacting a specialized attorney just for information on what he would do for us to write an ordinance, and he advised that it would be prudent for us to wait as well. So in light of that, this item, it's probably not timely to create a resolution, but we could forward any language in a letter in support of changing that language or that were not for these bills as they're currently written.
I think we should forward a letter to them saying we're not in favor of them passing any legislation that would prohibit towns from making more restrictive resolutions or.
Okay. Nick, did you want to add any comments on how we would propose getting that information down there, as well as what we can tell the public to do?
Yeah, so I think Chairwoman did a really good job of giving some background and overview of some of the points of consideration. And I think certainly there has been a great deal of work in exploring safety measures for recreational safety, right, and protecting the lakes with the town. So starting there, right, and the idea that we wanted to make sure that everybody had this information so you're aware of what's out there, what's going on, the opportunities you may have for participating and voicing any concerns or support, whichever that may be, that you would have with the bills as they're proposed. Of course, Language can change, right? But I want to give a couple points of where the current bills as they're proposed would be of relevance perhaps to us. So a couple areas. So number one, as it's been drafted here and in your materials, so they are explicitly providing that wake surfing and wakeboarding is included under the definition of aquaplaning, and it's applying the same safety regulations that apply then to water skiing to aquaplaning. So that's one area. The other one, and importantly I think the other one, would be that it is prohibiting wakeboarding and wake surfing within 200 feet of the shoreline, dock, pier, or structures that are partially or completely on water. Certainly we have lakes that would be impacting. Where the preemption comes in is this does say that a local ordinance can be less strict, but it cannot be more strict, right? So there is certainly relevance to these as they're proposed to what we've at least been exploring and receiving feedback on. Again, you've received feedback on a number of different avenues, but there is relevance with these bills. That's why we brought them for your information. And with a report from the chairwoman on kind of some of the timing considerations. It has been, I would say it has been fairly fast moving as we've seen developments happening pretty quickly. So this isn't sitting stagnant. Like Chairwoman had alluded to, there are hearings that are planned for this. So it's important that you as the board be aware of it. So I commend Chairwoman for putting this on there and doing the work, both Chairwoman and Supervisor Cole in talking with our local representatives, and just really importantly, being aware of what these are, what the impacts would be on us, so we can stay abreast of it. But it is important that if you're looking at doing an ordinance, that you have to be aware of these things, because there are preemptive components of this that we wouldn't want to pass an ordinance and then have that be canceled out by this and cause more confusion out in the community.
So, based on what Supervisor Bauer had said, if you would just repeat, you would prefer a letter that states we're not in favor of these bills at all, or
No.
we'd prefer a language change?
Language change that would not prohibit us from passing more restrictive legislation locally.
Oh, more restrictive?
Right.
Okay. Supervisor
Does
Capel?
anybody know the width of our lakes?
Yes.
Oh.
Well, there's places that are right down close to that 400 foot, the Narrows on Sherwood.
That's what I'm wondering, how restrictive does this eliminate wakeboarding and wake surfing?
No, it does
in
not.
No.
Lakes, the way it's written.
It would not, but it would make it so you couldn't go from one end to the other, because you'd hit a narrow spot where it's not
Correct.
wide enough to go through, and it,
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Arrowhead, because that's where I'm at, and I know that there's a restrictive point there where it can't be 400 feet
It's
across.
245.
Huh?
245, we did it on Google Earth.
Oh, you measured it?
245 is the
At the-
narrow
at-
part. Yep,
yeah.
I know which
So
one you're
you
talking
can't go
about.
straight down the lake.
It would
with
be a nightmare. No.
Okay.
That's only one lake, though.
Yeah, enforcement
But we
would be
gotta
a
think
nightmare.
about 3 of them, right?
Right,
You-
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
How does this impact with the size of our lakes? Because if it's saying 50 acres or less on a lake open to public access, that's different than the size of the lake. So the
Right.
public access is 50 acres or less.
So there's two pieces there, right? So one is that it's prohibiting wake surfing and wakeboarding on a body of water 50 acres or less, or that is less than 400 foot wide. There's the second part that I referenced, which would be prohibiting that within 200 feet of a shoreline, dock, pier,
Yeah.
structure, partially or all the way on the water. That's the piece, I think, that's the piece that would be, come into play here. So I know what you're talking about. That part I don't think is going to be, because we have wider than that, but we have areas where it narrows in,
Right.
certainly. That's where it's gonna impact, and be a point of consideration, I think, for the town, if something like this were to go through.
So if it were to go through, there would be, it's not disallowing it, it would be allowed like in just like a certain swipe, just a certain area on the bodies of water? It would just congest it all to one, potentially congest it all just to one area? Cause it's being,
Correct, I mean.
Could.
it's limiting it, you can't do it in these narrow areas, but there are the wider areas, so everybody is just, whoever wants to do this is just gonna be in that spot. So how is that gonna help with the erosion problems and the problems that people are complaining about? I guess you don't have an answer. I know you don't have an answer. It's like, it's not fixing our problem.
Yeah, the way their bill's written, it's not gonna, it's probably gonna make matters worse on these lakes because even if it's 600 feet across, you can't turn sharp when you're pulling somebody. You gotta make a gradual turn, which is
Yeah.
You're gonna come within 200 feet of the shoreline.
Well, I suppose unless an owner of a boat now, because you can only operate it in such a small area, just kind of says, well, this is not fun anymore, I don't really want to do this here anymore, but that's unknown too. Just doesn't seem that this is really helping us that much, so.
Which was
I
the
guess
point.
that's part of what our response might be, to talk about this size restrictions and see if that could be adjusted.
Well, if we were able to pass more restrictive legislation, we could cure that.
Right.
Did you take notes on that? And we'll,
I'm hearing, or we haven't had.
we don't have a
full direction, right? So I'm just,
Right,
I-
right,
I
we're just jotting our thoughts.
struggle a little bit because I tried to take the notes, but then we haven't heard the direction of the whole body, so.
the other options that we could do is that if, due to the time element involved and knowing what, I don't know how those turned out today, people can themselves get in touch with either Senator Teston's office or Assemblyman Krug's office, let your feelings known on either side of this issue, or how this affects the information is in our board packet this evening, so you can let your feelings known that way, or you can actually connect with the Committee on Financial Institutions and Sporting Heritage, the committee clerk, and she will take your statements also, or you can actually attend the hearings. The other committee clerk would be the one that's in charge of the Assembly Bill, which is referred to the Committee on Forestry, Parks, and Outdoor Recreation. But probably the easiest thing to do at this time, due to the element, is contact your representatives' offices directly, and they'll get word to the committee clerks. So they do see this, something happening over the winter, but with these groups actually talking, that means something. So, again, I think it's prudent that we wait and just, we could do our support individually, or we can send a letter of support that we want this language changed, and tell Nick how we would like that letter crafted. So, our other supervisors here, did you have any comments or anything you want to add?
Is this also
Take that as a
something?
no.
I will make a motion that we direct our corporate counsel to draft a letter to our assemblyman and our senator, saying that we support the bill, but we do not think that it should be more, it should restrict us from making a statute or a ordinance that's more restrictive.
Well, this would be more in support of language changes, so that's what he's basically addressing then with that motion. He's covering it good
Yeah,
then?
well, he's saying
But
we
he's-
support the bill, but he's really saying that we're requesting that you remove the language that wouldn't allow you to be more strict.
Yeah, and I think in talking to Representative Krug, that has been voiced by more people than just us.
I think that's why the committee clerks were getting as much as they did, and that's why the hearings are on hold until these groups are done talking. So, we can do that. I would also ask that if Tri-Lakes is got time and willing to do that, send a letter from your body as well, because you
We'll
are
have
a
a meeting
taxing.
next week. I will suggest that.
Please.
We have talked
If
about this
that's-
many times at Tri-Lakes also.
So that would be, that Tri-Lake sends one out. Okay. So, you second it? So we have a motion by Supervisor Bauerheit, a second by Supervisor Minter, to send a letter of support going forward with these bills to our two representatives with language changes.
Just so I'm clear, because I want to make sure that what is crafted and what is sent is what you all are going to understand if you do pass the motion. I can draft that. Is it signed by all of you, on behalf of all of you?
I think
Have
it
our
should be
chair.
signed by all of us.
I just want some clarity there, is all.
Whatever's
If I
easy.
vote no, I'm not gonna sign it. Just saying.
Well, then let's have our chairperson sign it.
You don't know how I'm gonna vote on that. But, I mean, it is
Well, if we
moving the,
vote
Will be
here-
signed by the people who vote yes, assuming this motion passes.
but let me, how about we do this? How about we see, we're getting it down there for the hearings, but we don't know that the hearings are actually gonna happen. So if that would change, we then have time to change this to some, so do we wanna put that in there and stipulate that if we should hear,
I don't see
my
why,
issue, Madam
I don't
Chair,
see
and
why
I
you
would-
wouldn't support it
is
because,
this creates, the way it's worded creates more problems.
It
Until
does.
they change the wording, I'm not ready to vote on it. I'm
That's
not
what
ready to cast a vote on it. Because it creates more problems for us than what it's worth. So
And
how can I
that's-
support it?
but that's what we're bringing it forward for, is that this legislation is out there in the midst of some people
understand
wanting
that.
to pass an
And
ordinance.
that's why I would vote no, because the way it's worded, I can't support it. It creates problems for the town. That's why I'm saying I'm not gonna vote in favor of supporting it, even with the change, because I don't support it. Creates problems for us.
The other option is so certainly everybody has the option or opportunity to voice support or opposition, right, to this. We can continue to monitor it and continue to bring this like we had and update you as this continues to maybe evolve or change or where exactly it's at. I think these are points of relevant interest to you all and the community, right? So we, just like we did today, bring it and let you know where these are, whether it's just through informational updates or what.
why don't we just say we support changes to the bill that would allow us to be more restrictive if we choose to do that? And I don't know how you could vote against that.
I'm not
Because
sure,
as you-
I'm not sure I'm interested in restricting wakeboarding. I'm not
Well, then we
convinced
wouldn't-
one way or the
we
other
would
yet.
Never pass it then.
So, I mean,
It's just
you're
leaving it.
making an assumption that I support this, and I'm not sure I do. I'm still weighing all the options. And this gives me even more cause to step back and let the legislature take its course. This is an opening salvo of what will probably be a winter-long discussion, if I'm not mistaken. If they're talking to parties, that means there's a bunch of lobbying going on, and it ain't gonna happen on those dates. I'll almost guarantee it. And what I would suggest we do is we take a wait and see and ask the two offices to keep us informed of any progress. And weigh in at the point in time when it makes sense, not prematurely.
I don't see it as
think-
being premature. I
That's my
think it
opinion.
just allows us to keep our options open. And as you say, if the bill does get passed and it causes more problems for us, if we're allowed to make changes of our own, then we could circumvent that.
Depends how they word it.
I guess I would have to say the reason I brought this forward is because there's been talk of an ordinance, and we haven't, as I had shared with the supervisor, that we haven't all agreed to that point of it either. But I wanted people to be aware that they could offer up their opinions one way or the other, and they have this opportunity to do this. And I do think this is a winter-long discussion. I think something might happen in that we can make our decision by at least March of this year so that we're ready for the new boating season. So to me, I feel that if anything's going to happen, the people that are at the state level really have a responsibility, including the DNR, to help us with this, not make it harder. And that's what they're doing with this. So I wanted you to have the opportunity as a board to discuss this, know what the current updates and status of these things were. If you want to take a vote on sending a memo down there, that's up, we can do that. Otherwise, you can do it individually. So,
Well, there's a motion on the floor, so.
yeah, a motion and a second. Supervisor Cole did offer up that those who are in favor of the language changes, if we did send this memo down there, from the town, that those that were in support could sign it and those that were not, didn't have to. So if we want to move do you want to make that amendment to your motion, or?
No. I don't.
Is this something, since we were just presented with it, some of us are, I've seen this before, some of us are seeing it for the first time today, maybe haven't read all of it. Would it be too late to put this on the next meeting so we can look at it more carefully and come back with our?
Theoretically, yes, because if that schedule holds, one hearing's on the 12th, one hearing's on the 19th, our next meeting's on the 21st.
21st, yeah.
On the 20th.
On the 20th.
We adjusted the date because of the
Oh, yeah.
holiday and the town hall being closed that Friday.
Because the piece
No,
that.
it's still after the two hearings.
Yeah.
Yes,
potentially.
exactly.
Because I just wonder about the body of water that's 50 acres or less.
Well, that
Don't
doesn't
have
affect
That
us at
doesn't
all.
apply to
That
any
piece
of our lakes.
doesn't. The other piece, like, our town attorney said, is the first piece, is with the footage, the 200 feet. That's where we've got a problem. And that's what we were seeking out information, and we can bring that up on the next agenda too, that if we wanted to move forward, our town attorney has often stated that this is something that really requires some expertise at that level, especially when it comes to making an ordinance governing a body of water with the public trust doctrine. And this gentleman does have good relationships with the DNR, so all of those things that have been done to this point would go through him, and we could have him to speak with us at our next meeting as well. But as far as something prior to these meetings, it would either be on an individual basis or a board basis, so. And then I would encourage Tri-Lakes and any individual out there, no matter how you feel, get in touch with your representative and tell them. Because this will make it hard for the town to really do anything that'll result in something that's successful, if that's the way the entire board wants to go. So we have a motion and a second. So I want clarification as to who you want to sign this.
If the motion passes, I believe the chairwoman should sign it.
I'm in favor of us all signing it, but I'm sorry, Nick, yes, you
Yeah,
want,
well, I was just going to say, is that part of your motion? Otherwise, I think it would be coming from the board, not from any one individual, which is what you're suggesting there, having the chairperson sign it. It can just come from the board if the board,
If she signs it, doesn't it come from the board?
not always.
I mean, you'd have to specify it's on behalf of the board, right? Or something along those lines.
So the
That's the
closing-
only reason I'm asking for some clarification.
So the closing signature line on the letter would say the Town of Rome Board.
Correct.
No particular name.
Yes, you do not have to put a particular name. If what I'm hearing is there may not be total support and concern that
Either way.
signing your name individually is a concern, you can just do it from the board.
All right. Do we want a roll call vote on this, or, all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
I-
Opposed?
No.
So we have 3 yeses, 2 nos. And that's in light of the fact that it was being insisted that I sign it, not the entire board. If it came from our whole board, I would be more comfortable with that.
Fine.
You're
I didn't
singling out
specify
one,
who
you're
signs it or
singling
not,
out
so
one
just-
person. And if you wanna do this as a group, that's one thing. You wanna single out one person and their names on it, cause there's been many things that a chair has to sign. Years ago, every board member signed every resolution letter that went out of here. But there's been plenty of things where if you vote against it or for it, the chair still has to sign it in this day and age. And I believe that the language change makes this makes it very hard for us for anything we wanna do moving forward. But putting that on me, we should do it as a team if you wanna move it
We're
forward.
not putting anything on you, we're just
Point
saying
of
leave our options
clarification for
open.
staff here,
Didn't
isn't it
vote.
gonna say town board?
Just the
That's what I
town
thought.
board.
Yeah,
He
fine.
never said it
Oh,
was just the
then-
chairman, the chairperson.
I thought he said you wanted the chairwoman on it, that it
I
would
didn't
say
say
in
that
there
in my
town
motion,
board.
that was part of the discussion
Just
though.
in the discussion.
Yeah, my intention is just to draft it from the board.
Fine.
All right,
If that's, unless somebody directs me otherwise, I will draft it to come from the board. So no one individual's name's on it.
It's fine.
All right, then that's,
Is there a
then it's-
possibility you'll have this done by Wednesday or not?
I will get on it.
If you
it's-
do, send me a copy so I can present it to Trilex.
Okay, all right.
When's your when's
yeah,
your
get-
Tri-Lakes meeting?
Wednesday.
This Wednesday?
I believe so.
Okay.
Okay.
So does that mean you've changed your vote? Cause were you a no vote on that?
Yeah, it does, yeah, it doesn't really matter at this point, cause it's going forward anyway, so, but,
Okay.
yes,
Just for the record, so we have record of votes, I guess, accurately.
Okay, thank you.
oh, I see what you're saying. May I just I would be then a yes, that this is coming from the board. So I'll state that clearly for the record, that this is coming from a town board. Thank you. All right, we've got that. And again, people call, whatever side you're on, call your representatives and let them know. All right. Moving forward. Item number 20. The board may continue into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Stat Section 19.85 sub 1 sub F, considering financial, medical, social, and personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personnel problems, or the investigation of charges against specific persons, except where paragraph B applies, which, if discussed in public, would likely have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data, or involved in such problems or investigations. Written complaints received concerning Lifestar Ambulance Services performance.
I move that we go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute, Section 19.85 sub 1 sub F.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Supervisor Bauerheit, a second by Supervisor Capel to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute, Section 19.85 sub 1 sub F. Roll call vote starting on my left, please.
Capel, yes. Minter, yes.
Jumati, yes.
Oh, yes.
All right, yes.
All right, we'll go into closed session. Mike Krieger from Lifestar will be joining us, Chief and Nick.
As a reminder, people can hear the mic stay live on the recording, so.
Christmas cookies and all the associated things.
It was gonna be a quick meeting.
What?
I thought it was gonna be a quick meeting.
Really? Are they ever?
Well, this one was a lot of, things got changed though. You know, the deer thing popped up on there. That's always a long discussion.
Yeah. Wasn't too bad.
No, but it's the same stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it should be, it's kind of a done deal, right?
Yeah. You know, in my opinion, you go with what the DNR biologists tell you.
Right.
They're the pros.
You have to. Yep,
They're the professionals.
yep. All right.
You got all your stuff. Okay, I'll get that TV shut down. Oh, I sat too long.
It was kind of an interesting meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are.
What? I almost walked out.
He's gonna say that.
I can't believe it. Was that composed? Yeah, it was like, on trial. me what you want me to do, and I'll do it. Right. Yeah.
Write it down, I'll do it.
Right. Oh. And don't complain when the budget goes over.
Yes. Thanks for a great night again last night, that was really, really nice.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it's a nice party.
Oops. That's not
All
bad.
right, well, hopefully you won't be here too late.
No. We'll see you soon.
All right, sounds good.
Press and hold power off. Hey, Lisa? See you tomorrow morning.
Well,
Wonder if that's her charger. Oh, that's just extra.
closed session?
The attorney's in there, I don't go in.
Oh, I didn't know how that works.
Yeah, I don't know.
You're obviously a integral part of
Yeah,
the town.
I'm the clerk treasurer, so yeah, I just take the minutes in open session. If the attorney and the administrator weren't in there, then I would have to be in there. But they're supposed to be taking minutes,
Got it.
so. What was your name again?
Mike Krieger, KRUEGER from Lancaster.
Yeah, good.
Thanks. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, thanks for being here. Do you want mine?
Well, this one did some software updates, so I wanted to get to it before we went into it.
Oh, so you're done in closed session, okay.
There she is, still here, huh?
I took a little nap. No, they're watching you. I didn't understand that. Oh my gosh.
I watch her in out of power about half an hour.
It gets so cold in here. Well, I got two coats here.
I was wondering if that was your sweater. I figured it was hers.
And see, the weather's changing by the weight of the coat that I leave behind. Okay.
Okay. The motion to come out of closed session?
Yes,
I move that we enter into open session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute, Section 19.85, Sub 2.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Bauerheit, second by Supervisor Minter to re-enter into open session authorized by Wisconsin State Stat, Section 19.85, Sub 2, to possibly take action from the closed session and continue with our agenda.
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion.
Nope. You
No,
first
we
need
do
the
roll
vote.
call.
we got
First we
roll
need,
call.
yeah,
Sorry.
my fault,
Too
roll call, my fault, I've delayed. Roll call vote starting on my left, please.
Capel, yes.
Minter, yes.
Jumati, yes.
Oh, yes.
Barheit, yes.
All right, now,
All right, Madam Chair, I direct that that the town board directs the interim administrator to give a memo to the chief and personnel of the Rome Fire Department outlining the types of calls the department is to respond to.
I'll second the motion.
okay, so can I have that so I can read it now? All right. We have a motion by Supervisor Minter, a second by Supervisor Bauerheit, that the board is directing the interim administrator to give a memo to the Rome Fire Department and chief outlining the types of calls that they are to respond to. Do you want to put a beginning date or effective immediately?
Effective immediately.
Do you want to add effective immediate?
To include effective upon receipt of the.
Fine, I'll amend my second.
Okay, so we have amendment and amendment to the first and the second to add effective immediately. Any more discussion? All those, a roll call vote on this or all in favor? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Dates and items for future agenda and meetings. Item number 22, A, will have an informational update on a possible local ordinance restricting wake sport activities.
And we have Visit Rome agreement extension.
Visit room.
Are we gonna have someone try and draft an ordinance before we go to the meeting?
I don't.
I think it might be, what do you mean, go to the meeting?
Until we,
Our
before we
meeting?
have the meeting, yes.
No,
I have us have an update on what happened down in Madison
The
in the next 2 weeks.
And see what our next step should be, because some work has already been,
Okay, just as long as we're talking about what goes on in Madison.
yes.
Because we told people already that we would not be adopting a wake boat ordinance during the winter. We already told people that. So we can't go in and pass an ordinance next week.
And I think it's reasonable
We
that we
can
do
if
take the,
it's for next year.
We
But-
suggested to people that we would allow them to come back from Florida to have a say in this matter. Did we not?
No.
That was unfortunately said to that one woman.
Well, that's gone on the
It
record.
was said to one person and it is on the record.
That's all I'm saying.
I
That's
think
all I'm
we,
saying.
I think because people have
We
asked
never
for
even
this,
voted
just
on
like,
that, though.
just like solar, they
was
want to
just
be
said to
involved.
her, it wasn't voted
Okay,
on.
but it's
No,
not
nothing was-
binding.
It was a
But is there a
statement
rush?
made.
I mean, people are leaving for the winter, so it's like to do these things, and if Madison's gonna make a decision, that either helps or negates whatever we try to do, or want to have done, whatever that might be, we've been advised by two different sources, there's no rush. So you can get an ordinance done in time for the next boating season, as long as we do it smartly over the winter months.
But you can do it in May when people are back.
Yes.
Oh, nobody's saying.
Absolutely.
Okay,
We should be ready to go.
and that should be
Consideration of that
for
woman.
2024, if we pass it at all.
You don't know when that woman is coming back. that's why it wasn't the greatest thing to say to her, cause she maybe doesn't come back till June, so.
Don't make any difference. It wasn't stated, so it's open.
I just,
But
over the
we
winter,
did
over the winter. So if somebody winters till June, well, gee. They must,
I have a neighbor who doesn't come back till mid-June, so it's all.
well, winter is winter. I
Winter's
mean,
over with by then.
Yeah,
Not use mine apparently.
all right.
Equinox summons the end of winter.
Yeah, that'd be like,
That's the end of spring, or the end of winter.
Oh, wait, equinox, yeah, that's solstice.
Equinox.
Solstice is.
It's important then that we have that slide deck from her, from Lisa then, to help with this extension, if we're gonna do that right away in December.
Get that to you.
I don't know why it's, okay, we have other contracts too we gotta think about. All right, anything else under next agenda items?
A revision to the fire chief's job description. And I'd also like to start considering the discussion of a fire district.
And I would say with Visit Rome, if the agenda next time is too lengthy, so then it could go to the next meeting.
Okay, all right.
Sometimes,
When are you leaving?
January 3rd,
We have a meeting on the 4th,
Yeah.
but,
so I don't.
well, and you wouldn't
I don't think I'd
be able to
do that.
vote anyway. Well, yeah, you can, I mean, well,
We'll have to see if I'm able to call in by that time.
all right, revision to fire chiefs, and then you said what now? You wanted
I'd
a,
like to start discussion about a fire district.
okay.
What dates are you gone?
Since somebody has a lot of time on their hands.
I'm going mid-February through mid-March.
Oh,
If you want dates, I can
so
give
we
you.
only overlap a couple weeks, so that's good.
And you
Might
come
not
back
even be
March
meeting.
5th,
March 2nd.
2nd?
We better get some hard dates so that we know whether Dan is also available, or so we don't know, so we know that we have a quorum.
So I'll be gone the 20th of February through March 22nd.
What was the last date?
22nd of March.
I like it, take my vacation.
But I'm able to,
You don't get to do
be
vacation.
remote.
If you guys can be
Well,
remote,
That works until you go into a closed session.
Yeah, I can't go, wouldn't go into, well, I
Right.
don't know how you would do that, you have to.
You can't.
can't.
You cannot. You have to be present for a closed session.
So this is Bob, this is.
And what were the
we'll get
dates?
down
I'm
to-
sorry.
I'm gone January 3rd, I come back March 1st.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
miss all the January meetings and
And
all the February meetings.
What is your schedule looking like? Are you
So
available?
far as I know, I do not, the only trip I have planned is I gotta go back to Bismarck the first 2 weeks of June.
Okay, so
I,
we should be
Well,
good.
then,
That's-
winter ends in June, so you'll be in good shape.
We should be good. We should be having no problem.
That's right. The buffalo are still carrying snow on their back.
That's on a Tuesday, so that doesn't affect this meeting.
All right, so anything else for next agenda? I'm sure we're gonna come up because there's a bunch of carryover from the last one, although we ticked quite a few off tonight. Next meeting date and time is December 20th, which is a Wednesday. Again, that was done because Thursday is the night before a day they have off for the holidays.
Same time though, right? 5 o'clock?
yeah.
Okay.
All right, and we'll come up with lots more, I'm sure. So you're gonna get that letter done, you'll get a copy to Bob that he could take to Tri-Lakes meeting next week, Wednesday.
As I understand it, Tri-Lakes is next week Wednesday. I will aim to get it
9
to
a.m.
you.
You're welcome to come to our meeting.
Thanks for the invite. I will aim to get it to you before then. And
No, not paying them.
Are nano bubbles on that?
yeah,
I would hope
that
so.
determines if I come or not.
Yeah. That might have an impact on attendance.
Jason, did you have anything you wanted to run by us before we shut down for the night? All right then, Nick, we're all done, everybody? Great. Meeting adjourned, thank you.